Messages arrive. Tasks multiply. Someone needs an answer. Even rest comes with a screen glowing in front of it. Then the noise runs out, and you're left with a life that may be busy, productive, even successful, yet somehow difficult to inhabit. Why can a person have plans, responsibilities, and people they love, but still feel unsure what any of it is for? The usual answers arrive quickly. Find your passion, set better goals, build a life that excites you. There's nothing wrong with those ideas. They're simply too neat for certain nights. Passion changes, goals can be reached and leave you strangely untouched. Excitement is wonderful, but it can't carry the full weight of a life. Purpose is often sold as a hidden assignment with your name on it. Find the correct career, the correct relationship, the correct version of yourself, and everything will click into place. That picture is comforting. It's also why so many intelligent people treat uncertainty as proof that they're failing. They assume everyone else received clear instructions. Philosophy offers a less tidy kind of help. It doesn't hand you a slogan to repeat when you're lost. It asks whether purpose is something you discover, something you choose, or something built slowly through the way you meet ordinary days. That difference reaches into your work, your ambition, your loneliness, and the promises you make when nobody is there to applaud them. By the end of tonight, I want to leave you with a clearer way to understand why this need returns, and how different answers can help you live honesty when certainty does not arrive. If you enjoy thinking through questions like this with me, subscribing helps others find them too. Liking and sharing the video helps even more. Now, let's begin. You put the phone down, and for a few seconds nothing happens. The room is still the same room. A glass of water by the bed, clothes on a chair, a faint strip of light under the door. Then your mind starts bringing things back. The conversation you handled badly, the work you keep postponing, the person you miss, or the person you've become around them. A decision that seemed manageable at noon now feels enormous at 1 a.m. It's tempting to blame the silence, as if quiet were doing something cruel to you. But silence hasn't added anything. It has only stopped helping you look away. Most of the day gives us somewhere else to place our attention. Messages arrive, music plays, someone needs an answer. There's traffic, work, food, errands, and the small emergency of a battery turning red. Even boredom has become difficult to reach. The moment a gap opens, we fill it. That doesn't mean every distraction is bad. Sometimes a ridiculous video is exactly what a tired mind can manage. Sometimes you need music in the kitchen because the kitchen is lonely. The trouble begins when noise becomes our only way of keeping certain thoughts at a safe distance. Then quiet feels like an attack. You reach for the phone again, not because there's anything you want to see, but because you know what will return if you don't. The hand moves before you've made a decision. One more clip, one more check, 5 more minutes borrowed from sleep. We often call this restlessness, but the word can make it sound random. It usually isn't. Your attention is going somewhere for a reason. It may be avoiding regret, uncertainty, grief, shame, or simply the awkward fact that your days don't feel like yours. The noise didn't solve any of that. It kept the meeting from taking place. And now, in the quiet, the meeting begins without an agenda. This is why late-night thoughts can feel so convincing. They've been waiting all day, and when they finally get the room, they speak with the force of something neglected. That force doesn't make every thought true. A tired mind can exaggerate, accuse, and turn one bad moment into a complete theory of your life. Still, the pressure itself may be pointing towards something you haven't allowed yourself to face. If silence only removes the cover, what has all that noise been covering for you? Distraction is easy to treat as a dishonest habit, as though every time you reach for your phone, turn on a show, or find one more small task, you're simply refusing to face your life. But that's too neat. Distraction often works because it gives you something you genuinely need in that moment: relief. A difficult thought can make your body tense before you've even put it into words. An unfinished decision sits somewhere behind your attention. A disappointment keeps brushing against you. Then a message arrives, a video starts, or someone asks you a practical question. For a while, your mind has somewhere simpler to go. The tension drops. You can breathe without having to settle anything. That relief is real. Calling it avoidance doesn't make it imaginary. Sometimes a break is exactly what lets you return with more patience. We aren't built to examine every fear the instant it appears. If you had to resolve your identity, your relationships, and your future before making lunch would become a fairly ambitious project. The trouble is that relief can also hide the thing it relieves. The same act can calm you and keep you from noticing why you needed calming. You don't have to consciously decide, I won't think about this. Attention simply moves toward the easier object. Your attention gets a smaller problem with clearer edges. Answer the message, finish the film, check the score, clean the kitchen counter. Those activities aren't guilty. The pattern matters more than the object. You can watch a film because you enjoy it, or because 2 quiet hours feel unbearable. You can work late because the work needs doing, or because competence feels safer than uncertainty. From the outside, the actions may look identical. Inside, they serve very different purposes. And this is why blaming yourself for distraction rarely clarifies much. Shame adds another uncomfortable feeling, which often creates another reason to escape. A more honest response is to notice what the distraction changed. Did it restore you, or did it merely postpone contact? When it ended, were you more able to meet the pressure, or did you immediately need another layer of noise? Relief and concealment aren't opposites. They can happen in the same swipe, the same busy evening, the same harmless little habit. The relief tells you the distraction had a function. What returns afterward tells you that function had a limit. When the noise stops, you may expect one clear thought to be waiting underneath it. Usually, there isn't. There's a loose crowd of things that don't seem connected at first. The job you're no longer sure you want, the person you miss, the argument you keep replaying, the fear that time is moving faster than you are. Then they begin to lean toward the same demand. You want your life to add up, not as a perfect plan, and not as proof that every bad thing happened for a reason. What you need is some intelligible relation between what you endure, what you love, what you spend your days doing, and the fact that none of it lasts forever. That demand is already philosophical. It appears when suffering refuses to remain a bad mood and starts affecting your sense of what a life is for. It appears when love gives your life meaning, then makes you vulnerable to grief. It appears at work when being productive no longer answers whether the work deserves so much of you. And it appears around death, sometimes quietly, when an ordinary birthday or an old photograph makes time feel less like a number and more like a limit. We often treat these moments as emotional weather. We say we're tired, restless, lonely, unmotivated. Sometimes that description is accurate, but a mood can carry an argument inside it. Boredom may be asking why your attention belongs to this task. Grief may expose how deeply another person became part of your world. Anxiety about time may reveal that you've been living by priorities you never consciously chose. This doesn't mean every difficult evening contains a grand message. Sometimes you need sleep. Sometimes the day was simply awful. We can become ridiculous when we demand a philosophical revelation from a Tuesday headache. Still, when the same unease returns across different places and different moods, it may be pointing beyond the feeling itself. You're not only asking how to feel better, you're asking what would make effort worth giving, love worth risking, loss possible to carry, and a limited life worth inhabiting. Those questions won't always arrive in polished language. They may arrive as irritation, emptiness, envy, or the sudden suspicion that your full calendar has somehow missed your life. If everything became quiet enough for that demand to speak plainly, what would your life need to mean for it to feel like it truly added up? A natural answer is to choose a direction, set a goal, build discipline, decide what kind of person you want to become, then arrange your days around it. This can improve a life enormously. You stop drifting, you keep promises to yourself. The alarm rings, and there's a reason to get up beyond whatever mood happens to be waiting. But direction can solve one problem while leaving another untouched. You can know exactly where you're going and still wonder why arriving should matter. The promotion comes, the savings grow, your work gets sharper. People begin describing you as focused, perhaps with a mixture of admiration and mild irritation. Yet in the quiet after a good day, something still fails to settle. This doesn't make the goal false. It doesn't mean discipline was a mistake. It means purpose has more than one layer. There's the practical purpose of an action. You exercise to become stronger, study to gain skill, work to support a family, save to buy time. These reasons can be clear and worthwhile. Then there's the harder demand beneath them. Why should this whole pattern of effort feel worthy of your finite life? A goal can organize your attention without answering that. In fact, success sometimes makes the gap easier to see. While you're struggling, you can blame the struggle. Once the obstacle moves, you lose that explanation. You stand inside the result you wanted and discover that achievement is very good at being an achievement. It is less reliable as a final argument for existence. We often respond by raising the target, a larger project, a stricter routine, a more impressive version of ourselves. Motion returns, and with it, relief. There is useful comedy in this. The soul asks whether the life makes sense, and we hand it a color-coded calendar. The calendar may be excellent, it simply wasn't built to answer. So a purposeful person can remain existentially unconvinced. You can admire your own discipline and still feel no deep agreement with the life it serves. You can be moving forward without feeling that forward is enough. Nothing has necessarily gone wrong. The success may be real, and the unease may be real too. Direction tells you where your effort goes. Meaning decides whether you can recognize yourself in giving it. Meaning is a small word carrying several different needs. We notice this when life looks perfectly understandable from the outside, yet feels oddly illegible from within. You know where you work, who you live with, what needs paying, and what Tuesday demands. The facts are clear. Still, some part of you can't tell what those facts add up to. One need is significance. You want to know that something matters beyond the few seconds in which it happens. The message you send, the promise you keep, the hour you give to someone who needs you. These acts may be ordinary, but they don't feel interchangeable. They have weight. Without that weight, a busy day can feel strangely disposable, as if it could vanish without leaving any human trace. Then there is worth. Something may matter to you and still leave you unsure whether it deserves your loyalty. We can care intensely about status, approval, or winning an argument. Intensity alone doesn't make the object worthy, so a more uncomfortable question appears. Is this good enough to build part of my life around? That question can disturb an efficient routine, because efficiency only tells you how well the machine is running. It doesn't tell you whether the machine deserves your years. And life must also be intelligible, not perfectly explained. Human lives are too messy for that. But we need some way to see how love, work, failure, duty, pleasure, and loss belong in the same existence. When they feel like unrelated episodes, you can become a stranger to your own history. You remember what happened, but you can't quite say how the person who endured 1 year became the person now standing in the kitchen waiting for the kettle. These needs overlap, but they aren't identical. A painful sacrifice may be worth making even when it brings little pleasure. A pleasant habit may brighten your evening without giving the rest of life a shape. A clear explanation may help you understand why you acted badly without making the action good. So when we say, "My life feels meaningless," we may be naming several kinds of confusion at once. Perhaps nothing seems to carry weight. Perhaps our deepest commitments no longer feel worthy. Perhaps the pieces of life refuse to form a picture we can live inside. This need goes beyond another task. It is trying to discover what matters, what deserves devotion, and how this particular life can make sense as a whole. Most of us don't sit at the kitchen table on a Tuesday morning and announce that we're searching for meaning. We notice something smaller. The alarm goes off, and for a few seconds we can't remember why we keep living this exact day. We finish a task that mattered terribly yesterday, then feel almost nothing. We hear ourselves say, "Once I get through this month," although we've been saying it for 3 years. That's how the need for meaning usually enters ordinary life. It doesn't arrive as a philosophical puzzle. It arrives as resistance. Why keep working this hard? Why stay loyal to this person? Why raise a family, build a career, care for an aging parent, or begin again when the last attempt cost so much? These realities make demands on us. Eventually, we want to know whether those demands deserve what they're taking. A goal can keep you moving for quite a while. Get the promotion, finish the degree, pay off the debt, move to a better place. There's nothing shallow about any of that. Practical goals hold lives together, but once a goal starts consuming years, attention, health, or love, another concern appears behind it. Why is this worth the price? You can feel that concern at awkward moments. You finally get the thing and begin checking your phone before the satisfaction has even settled. You sit beside someone you love and realize your mind is still at work. You become very efficient at maintaining a life you no longer feel close to. From the outside, everything may appear perfectly sensible. From inside, the reasons have gone quiet. And this is why people often search for meaning during grief, boredom, success, illness, loneliness, or change. Each one interrupts the normal exchange. Effort no longer produces the expected reward. The old story stops explaining the new reality. We're forced to look at commitments that once ran automatically and ask whether we can still stand behind them. That can feel unsettling, but it isn't necessarily a sign that something has gone wrong. Sometimes it means you've noticed that your life is asking more from you than habit can justify. The discomfort comes from a collision. You're still capable of pursuing the goal, yet no longer sure the person pursuing it has a reason to continue. The schedule says go. The life beneath it says convince me. You finally get an evening with nothing demanded of you. No urgent work. No conversation to manage. No small crisis waiting in the kitchen. You sit down, and within minutes the quiet starts to feel oddly uncomfortable. Your hand reaches for something. A book, a snack, a message, a task that could easily wait. Almost anything will do, provided it keeps you from being entirely alone with yourself. Pascal noticed this long before screens made distraction effortless. He watched people chase amusement, status, conflict, business, even danger, and saw more than simple pleasure-seeking. We keep ourselves occupied because stillness leaves us exposed. Remove the errands and ambitions for a moment, and you may meet the facts that activity had been holding at a polite distance. You're vulnerable, your control is limited, other people can leave, your achievements can't settle every doubt, and your time is passing whether the day feels meaningful or not. This is why an empty hour can feel heavier than a crowded week. The crowded week gives you a role. You're solving, replying, improving, arranging. You know what to do next. Quiet takes away those instructions. It doesn't automatically reveal some wise and peaceful inner self. Sometimes it reveals a person who doesn't know what to do when usefulness stops speaking on their behalf. We often call this boredom, but boredom may be only the first layer. Stay there a little longer, and it can become restlessness, then unease, then the awkward recognition that you've built parts of your life around never having to hear certain thoughts at full volume, not because those thoughts are dramatic. Often they're embarrassingly simple. Am I living by choice, or just continuing? If nobody praised this, would I still want it? When I'm not performing a role for someone else, who exactly is left in the chair? Pascal's point isn't that work, friendship, games, or entertainment are corrupt. They can be good. The trouble begins when every activity becomes a buffer, and we can no longer tell whether we're enjoying life or hiding inside its movement. Then the room goes quiet. Nothing attacks you. Nothing has gone wrong. Yet without the usual noise between you and your limits, you feel how little protection busyness was actually providing. Diversion protects us from more than an awkward evening with ourselves. It keeps 3 harder facts at a manageable distance. We will die, we will never be entirely enough for ourselves, and we depend on people and conditions we cannot control. Most days, those facts don't arrive as grand revelations. Mortality appears in the birthday that feels strangely fast, the parent who suddenly looks older, or the name of someone your age in the news. Insufficiency appears when success gives you relief, then quietly creates a new standard you must meet. Dependence appears when one delayed reply can alter your mood, or when a healthy body, a stable income, and another person's affection turn out to be gifts rather than property. Diversion doesn't erase any of this. It postpones the meeting. That postponement can look perfectly respectable. You take on another project because finishing things makes you feel solid. You keep helping everyone because being needed is easier than admitting you need them too. You plan the next improvement before you've felt the disappointment beneath the last one. Even serious reflection can become a hiding place if you collect ideas about life without allowing any idea to touch the way you're living. This is why diversion is so attractive. It gives pain a later appointment. You can answer the email now, reorganize the week, fix the kitchen drawer, read one more article, and promise yourself that eventually you'll sit with whatever keeps following you. The activities may be useful. Some are necessary, but their usefulness also makes excellent camouflage. Pascal saw that we often chase stimulation because our condition is difficult to face without it. We want to feel complete, yet our desires keep reopening. We want security, yet everything we love can change or leave. We want control, yet much of life reaches us without asking permission. Diversion lets us borrow the feeling that these problems have been handled simply because they aren't currently in view. And that borrowed feeling can last for years. A full calendar can resemble purpose. Constant improvement can resemble self-knowledge. Being wanted can resemble being whole. The resemblance is close enough to keep us moving. But the strain eventually shows. Rest feels guilty. Silence feels heavy. A free evening feels less like freedom than exposure. The diversion has done its job so well that ordinary life without it now feels unsafe. What we call boredom may be the moment the postponement stops working, and the unpaid facts of being human begin arriving all at once. Pascal is brilliant at describing this exposure. He sees how quickly we reach for noise when we're left alone with ourselves. Give us a quiet room, an empty hour, no urgent message to answer, and we rarely settle into grateful peace. It starts checking the locks. Have I chosen well? Am I wasting my life? What happens when the people I love disappear? What happens when I do? His diagnosis still lands because it catches us in ordinary moments. You pick up your phone without deciding to. You invent a small task. You check something you checked 6 minutes ago. None of this is dramatic. That's why it works. We don't need a grand escape from the human condition. We need a glowing rectangle and a weak excuse. But Pascal's accuracy creates a temptation. Once a thinker exposes the habit this clearly, we can mistake recognition for an answer. We feel seen, perhaps even slightly embarrassed, and assume we've moved closer to whatever the silence demands. Yet naming the escape doesn't tell us what would make escape unnecessary. Taking the phone out of your hand may reveal the ache. It doesn't explain the ache, and it certainly doesn't settle it. That distinction matters because discomfort can make almost any strong answer feel earned. If silence exposes fear, then certainty becomes attractive. If distraction looks dishonest, then intensity starts to look sincere. We may accept a conclusion because it gives the exposed feeling somewhere to go, not because the conclusion has been shown to be true. Pascal wants to move from our restless condition toward a religious answer. We can understand why. He thinks our inability to be satisfied by finite things points beyond finite things. But the force of the diagnosis and the truth of the proposed cure are separate matters. A wound can prove that something is wrong without proving which medicine will work. So the quiet room gives us evidence, just not as much as we might first think. It shows that activity can hide questions rather than answer them. It shows that success, pleasure, and attention can fail to settle us even when we get what we wanted. It may also show that we want more from life than comfort and occupation can provide. That is already a serious discovery. It strips away one comforting confusion. Being busy with life is not the same as having made sense of it. But exposure is not resolution. The silence can reveal the demand for an answer while remaining silent about what the answer must be. You can answer that silence with a mission. Build the company, raise the children well, finish the book, serve your community. become excellent at something difficult. A mission gathers scattered days into a shape. Monday belongs to Tuesday. Effort leads somewhere, and sacrifice stops feeling random. That matters. Without direction, we're easily pulled apart by whatever feels urgent. The phone chooses what deserves attention. Other people's expectations choose what counts as success. A purpose lets you refuse things. It can steady you through boredom, disappointment, and the long stretch when nobody is applauding. And still, an uncomfortable gap can remain. Imagine someone whose life is built around work they respect. They're capable, useful, and trusted. Their calendar is full for good reasons. At dinner, they can explain what they're building and why it deserves years of effort. Nothing about this life is fake, yet late at night, a thought appears. Even if I complete all of it, what will completion mean? The mission can answer what to do tomorrow. It may not answer why any of it matters in the final sense. That limit is easy to miss because purpose and ultimate significance can feel identical while we're moving. Both produce commitment, both make pain easier to bear, both pull us out of bed, but purpose is usually tied to a result, a role, or a relationship. Results arrive or fail, roles end, relationships change. Sometimes the mission succeeds so completely that it removes the structure holding your life together. The children leave home, the project launches, the career reaches the summit on the old map. You arrive and discover that achievement has no instructions for the morning after. This doesn't make the mission worthless. It shows what kind of answer it is. Purpose organizes a life from within. It tells your hours where to go and your abilities where to serve. Ultimate significance asks whether that arrangement belongs to anything larger than the goals you selected, inherited, or happened to love. We often ask one mission to do both jobs because it's close at hand and easy to explain. People understand a promotion, a finished degree, a family cared for, a cause advanced. Explaining why existence itself should feel justified is much harder, so we polish the visible answer and hope it reaches all the way down. Sometimes it reaches far, just not all the way. A life may be disciplined, generous, and beautifully directed, while still carrying an unanswered need for significance. Purpose gives the day a shape. It doesn't automatically tell us why the shape should matter. That limit doesn't make purpose a fraud. It simply tells us what kind of work purpose can actually do. A purpose can get you out of bed when your mood offers no useful instructions. It can help you refuse distractions, endure boredom, and accept sacrifices that would otherwise seem pointless. Caring for a child, building a business, making music, serving a community. These commitments organize attention. They decide which inconvenience is worth tolerating. Without that structure, every demand competes on equal terms, and the loudest notification often wins. That's real value. Anyone who has drifted through an empty week knows it. But usefulness and ultimate justification aren't the same thing. A map is useful because it helps you reach a destination. It can't tell you whether the destination deserves your life. In much the same way, purpose can coordinate your choices without settling the larger issue of why this particular set of choices should count as significant beyond your commitment to it. We notice the difference when the purpose weakens. The children leave home, the career ends, the project succeeds and produces a strangely quiet Tuesday morning. Or the cause that once gave you direction becomes tangled in compromise. If purpose carried its own final justification, these changes would merely require a new schedule. Instead, they can disturb your sense of who you are and whether the years behind you added up to something. This is why replacing one goal with another sometimes works, and sometimes feels like changing seats in the same waiting room. The new goal restores movement. It gives you calls to make, skills to learn, people who depend on you. Yet movement alone doesn't answer the concern beneath it. None of this means purpose is small. Food isn't small because it can't answer loneliness. Friendship isn't small because it can't prevent death. A good thing doesn't become worthless when we stop demanding that it solve every human problem. Purpose earns its place by helping a life become coherent in practice. It connects effort to consequence. It turns vague care into something you actually do on Wednesday afternoon. Ultimate justification asks for more, whether that coherent life participates in a value that isn't created only by your decision to pursue it. The two can support each other. They may even meet, but they shouldn't be confused. Purpose can carry much of the weight of living without being required to carry the whole weight of existence. You can organize your days, keep your promises, care for people, and still feel the old unease return when the house goes quiet. The calendar is working. The work has a point. Someone is glad you exist. Yet none of this settles whether existence itself has any point beyond the ones we give it. That unease isn't proof that your purposes have failed. It appears because they succeeded at a smaller job. They told you where to place your effort. They didn't tell you whether reality recognizes that effort as significant. We often avoid this distinction because it sounds ungrateful. You have people to love, work worth doing, perhaps a life you once wanted. Why ask for more? But the demand isn't always for more achievement or stronger motivation. Sometimes you want to know whether the value you experience is something you discovered or something you invented, because living without it would be unbearable. That moves the problem outside the boundaries of personal organization. Better habits can change your morning. Commitment can give shape to a decade. Neither can make the world answer back. And we do want an answer. We want suffering to count for something beyond the fact that we survived it. We want love to matter even after the people who carried it are gone. We want courage to be more than a useful preference held by one clever animal on a minor planet. It can feel almost embarrassing to admit this while standing in a supermarket queue or deleting another pointless email. But the setting doesn't make the demand less serious. The difficulty is that the world offers events, consequences, and patterns. It doesn't clearly offer a verdict. Rain falls on the funeral and the wedding with equal indifference. A cruel person may prosper. A decent person may disappear without recognition. Nature can be beautiful enough to make you feel addressed, then remain completely silent when you ask what the beauty means. So the search turns outward. You're no longer asking only, what should I do with my life? You're asking whether anything beyond human desire confirms that one use of a life is more meaningful than another. That is where practical purpose reaches its border. On one side, you can choose, build, love, and act. On the other stands a world that may contain no reply to your need for those actions to mean more than they mean to you. The demand remains, the silence remains, and neither one cancels the other. You can feel this collision in ordinary moments. A plan fails for no moral reason. Someone you love is taken by an illness that has no lesson to offer. You do everything right and still lose. Then, almost without noticing, you look past the event and ask for an explanation large enough to make it acceptable. Why this? Why now? What was it for? The world gives you causes. Cells changed. A driver looked away. Rain didn't fall. A company ran out of money. Causes can explain how something happened, but they don't tell you why it deserved to happen or why you should have to carry it. We ask for meaning. We receive mechanics. Albert Camus used the word absurd for the clash between our hunger for clarity and a world that does not answer that hunger. The absurd isn't simply the silent world. If nobody expected a reply, silence would be unremarkable. It hurts because we keep addressing the silence as though it owes us something. We do this constantly. We replay an argument, searching for the sentence that would make the ending fair. We study our failures, hoping effort and outcome will finally line up. We sit awake after a death and feel that reality itself has broken a rule, though nobody can show us where that rule was written. The demand survives every disappointment. We want life to explain itself in human terms. That demand isn't foolish. It comes from the same part of us that notices injustice, keeps promises, and refuses to treat love as a chemical inconvenience. We live by reasons. We ask people to account for what they do, so it feels almost insulting to discover that existence may not submit to the same standard. And this is why a new purpose can't settle everything. You can decide what deserves your time. You can love someone, make something, or accept a duty. Yet underneath the choice, Another demand may remain. Prove that this matters beyond my choosing it. Prove that loss belongs to some order. Prove that my life isn't being spent inside an enormous accident. Camus doesn't give the world a voice it hasn't shown us. He leaves both sides intact. We continue asking because we are human. The world continues without answering because it is not a person standing across from us. The absurd appears in the contact between them, our need for an answer, pressed against something that may never reply. That contact doesn't require a breakdown. You don't have to be staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m, unable to move. You can be making coffee, answering messages, laughing at dinner, or enjoying a day that feels almost suspiciously good. The absurd hasn't vanished. It simply isn't hurting at that moment. This matters because we often treat difficult ideas as moods. If you feel empty, life seems meaningless. When hope returns, meaning seems to have returned with it. Then a good weekend appears to defeat Camus more efficiently than any philosopher could. The sun is out. Your friend calls. The sandwich is excellent. Case closed. But Camus is describing a relation, not a permanent emotional state. A relation can remain in place even when you aren't paying attention to it. You still want your life to make sense as a whole. The world still gives you events, limits, pleasures, accidents, and deaths without attaching a final explanation. That arrangement survives your changing weather inside. Think of standing before a locked door. Some days you pound on it. Some days you sit beside it. Some days you become absorbed in a conversation and forget the door is there. None of those reactions opens it. Your mood changes your experience of the situation, but it doesn't necessarily change the situation itself. This is why happiness doesn't refute the absurd, and despair doesn't prove it. Both can distort our view if we make them judges. Despair may insist that nothing has value. Happiness may make the demand for a final answer feel unnecessary. Camus asks us to trust neither feeling with that much authority. Feelings tell us how life is landing today. They don't settle what kind of answer the world can give. That clarification keeps the absurd from becoming a dramatic pose. You don't need to cultivate sadness, stare into empty streets, or behave as though smiling would betray the argument. You can care about work, enjoy breakfast, fall in love, and be fully present. The mismatch remains available to notice because it lies in the structure of our experience. A mind that asks for ultimate sense, living in a world that offers no confirmed reply. So the absurd isn't the dark mood that visits when life goes badly. It is the relation we sometimes feel painfully, sometimes lightly, and sometimes not at all. Knowing this doesn't make the need disappear. You can understand perfectly well that the world owes you no explanation, then find yourself asking for one before breakfast. A friend dies, a plan collapses, years of effort lead somewhere you never chose. Even happiness can provoke it. You watch someone you love laughing across the table, and suddenly the moment feels unbearably temporary. Your thoughts reach beyond the event. Why this loss? Why this life? Why should anything beautiful vanish? We don't merely register what happened, we want it to belong to an order we can understand. That demand is stubborn. You can call it irrational, childish, or impossible, but naming it doesn't switch it off. We're creatures who connect one day to another. We build identities, make promises, remember old rooms, and imagine futures that don't exist yet. Meaning isn't an optional decoration placed on top of experience. It's woven into how we choose, endure, and care. Even our smallest decisions lean on some idea of what deserves our limited time. Camus sees the awkward result. Once you notice that no final answer has arrived, you may expect your hunger for one to weaken. It often doesn't. Silence can become familiar without becoming satisfying. You learn the facts, return to work, answer messages, pay the electricity bill, and still want the whole arrangement to make sense. Human beings are impressive that way. We can adjust to almost anything except, apparently, not knowing what any of it ultimately adds up to. This is why the absurd can hurt even on an ordinary Tuesday. The pain isn't produced by silence alone. A stone doesn't suffer because the universe hasn't explained itself. The collision requires a being who wants coherence, justice, permanence, or purpose, and can't secure them from the world. And insight doesn't place you safely above that being. You remain the person who loves as if love should last. You work as if effort should count. You protest cruelty as if reality ought to care about fairness. Then the world declines to confirm the rules your life keeps reaching for. So clarity brings no easy relief. The silence is no longer mistaken for a hidden answer waiting just out of reach, but the demand remains fully awake, facing it. This leaves you in an uncomfortable position. You can't make the world answer, and you can't simply switch off the part of you that wants an answer. Camus refuses to tidy that discomfort away. He draws a boundary around two ways of ending it, because both remove one side of the collision instead of living honestly with both. The first is to remove the person who is asking. Camus treats self-destruction as a serious philosophical problem, but he doesn't accept it as an answer to the absurd. Ending a life ends the confrontation. It doesn't settle whether life has meaning. It only makes the argument impossible to continue. For Camus, that is surrender by destruction. The second escape can look far more respectable. You keep living, but give the silence an answer it hasn't supplied. You make a leap toward a final order, a divine plan, or some hidden purpose that turns uncertainty into assurance. Camus calls this philosophical suicide. His target isn't every religious person, nor every act of hope. It is the move by which reason discovers a limit, then quietly pretends the limit proves whatever lies beyond it. You can feel the temptation in ordinary life. Something painful happens, and within minutes we're trying to make it necessary. It had to happen. It was preparing me. It belongs to a plan I can't yet see. Sometimes those beliefs help a person endure. Camus's objection is narrower and harsher. Comfort doesn't become knowledge merely because we need it badly. So he refuses both exits. Don't destroy the life that experiences the conflict. Don't deceive yourself after seeing it clearly. Keep the hunger for meaning and keep the world's silence without forcing either one to disappear. That refusal is what Camus begins to call revolt. Revolt isn't a burst of anger or a heroic pose. It is the daily decision to remain present without appeal to a final explanation. You still get out of bed, answer the message, do the work, love people who won't last, and object to suffering even when no cosmic judge guarantees that your objection will win. Revolt begins modestly. No escape through destruction. No peace purchased with a claim you cannot honestly make. Camus allows no resolution that requires you to erase yourself or lie to yourself. That leaves you with an awkward kind of honesty. You can see that the burden hasn't vanished, then make coffee anyway. You can doubt that history bends toward justice, then refuse to treat another person cruelly. You can admit that death closes every life, then still care whether today's choices are decent or cowardly. None of this settles the conflict. It preserves your ability to judge inside it. For Camus, revolt keeps judgment awake. It protects the tension between what we want from life and what life can promise. If you force an answer, judgment becomes obedience to that answer. Anything might be excused because paradise, progress, destiny, or some final result supposedly requires it. But when you stop claiming access to a final purpose, you have to look at the person in front of you. Their pain can't be dismissed as a necessary line in a grand plan you cannot prove. This is why revolt is more than endurance. Endurance can become passive. You lower your head, take the blow, and call survival enough. Revolt still says no. It keeps distinctions alive. This act is cruel. That excuse is dishonest. This pleasure is worth receiving. That humiliation should be resisted. The world's silence does not cancel those judgments. It makes them ours to carry, without celestial permission and without certainty that they will be rewarded. There is no promise of rest in that position. You may have to make the same judgment tomorrow under worse conditions. You may act well and lose. You may love someone while knowing love cannot protect either of you from time. You may build something that will be forgotten. Revolt does not convert those facts into hidden victories. It lets them remain losses where they are losses. And yet, continued life is possible here, not because the conflict has been solved, but because solving it was never the price of taking part. You can work without believing work will redeem existence. You can enjoy an afternoon without turning pleasure into proof that everything happens for a reason. You can oppose suffering without claiming you'll defeat it forever. That is the limit revolt accepts. It cannot remove death, guarantee justice, or give the world a final explanation. It can only keep you alive, alert and answerable for what you do, while none of those guarantees exist. That sounds enough until pain stops being an idea. A diagnosis arrives. Someone you love dies. You wake at 3 in the morning and discover that courage has no sedative effect. You can face the facts without blinking and still want something the facts cannot give you. Not an explanation, perhaps. Just relief. Just the sense that this suffering is held somewhere beyond your own exhausted attention. This is where the limit of revolt becomes painfully clear. Revolt can keep you from lying about what happened. It can stop you from calling cruelty necessary or loss secretly good. It can help you refuse humiliation, ask for justice, take the medicine, make the call, sit beside the bed. These are real forms of courage. But courage and consolation are not the same thing. Lucidity says, "I will not invent an answer." Consolation says, "You do not carry this alone." The first is a stance you can take. The second usually has to come from somewhere beyond the stance itself. Another person, a community, a faith, a memory. Even the steady care of someone who cannot fix the pain but refuses to leave. When none of that feels available, revolt may preserve your dignity while offering very little warmth. Camus understood the seriousness of this burden. His refusal of false comfort wasn't a clever pose made from a safe distance. He knew illness, war, political violence, and the early death of his father. The limit here isn't a lapse in his thinking. It appears because his thinking is honest enough to admit what human defiance can and cannot do. We often confuse clear sight with sufficient strength. We imagine that if you understand your suffering properly, you should be able to bear it properly. Then pain continues, and now you feel accused by your own philosophy. You were brave, you stayed honest. Why are you still reaching for comfort? Because pain doesn't only challenge what you believe, it changes what you can carry. A person can reject comforting illusions and still need to be comforted. There is no contradiction in that. The awkward fact is that intellectual honesty may protect you from one kind of surrender while leaving you exposed to another kind of need. Revolt can tell us how to stand without guarantees. It cannot, by itself, tell us what might meet us when standing becomes too heavy. You can survive a terrible week when you know why you're enduring it. A night beside a hospital bed. Months caring for someone who can no longer care for themselves. The last exhausting mile home. The pain may be severe, but it has a place in the story you're living. You can point to what it serves, even if you never would have chosen it. Then there is pain that seems to serve nothing. The illness with no clear cause. The loss that improves no one. The loneliness that doesn't make you wiser, only tired. You wake up, complete the small duties, answer messages, wash a cup, and discover that another day has passed without explaining itself. This kind of suffering carries an extra weight. There is the hurt itself, and then there is the failed attempt to place it. We ask what this is for. We look backward for a cause that would make it reasonable and forward for a result that would make it worthwhile. When neither appears, pain starts to feel less like something happening within life and more like an interruption of life. That difference matters. People often endure extreme difficulty when it belongs to a commitment they understand. A parent gets up again because a child needs breakfast. Someone finishes a brutal course of treatment because there is a hoped-for outcome. Even grief, on some days, can feel connected to the love that made it possible. The frame doesn't remove the suffering. It gives the suffering somewhere to stand. Without that frame, the same mind can turn against itself. You may wonder whether you're weak because you can't tolerate what appears, from outside, to be manageable. But intensity isn't the only measure of pain. Confusion drains strength too. It is hard to carry something when you cannot tell whether carrying it leads anywhere. And no, this doesn't mean every loss hides a lesson, or that misery becomes valuable once we invent a noble slogan for it. Some suffering remains wasteful, unfair, and stubbornly mute. Forcing meaning onto it can become another cruelty, especially when other people do the forcing from a comfortable distance. Still, the need for a frame does not disappear because false frames are dangerous. When pain cannot explain itself, we start searching anyway, through faith, work, love, memory, duty, or the simple decision to remain near another person. The search becomes urgent because suffering without any place in the world can begin to make the world itself feel uninhabitable. Two people can endure the same kind of pain and live inside very different worlds. For one, the pain is terrible but contained. It belongs to a loss, a sacrifice, a promise, or a period that must somehow be crossed. For the other, it spreads into everything. It seems to say that nothing is safe, nothing makes sense, and no future self could possibly carry it. The pain itself may be equally severe. What changes is its meaning. This is easy to mishandle. Interpretation isn't a cheerful story pasted over misery. It doesn't make injustice acceptable or turn illness, grief, and humiliation into gifts. If your house burns down, calling the fire a lesson doesn't rebuild the kitchen. Sometimes that kind of language only adds insult. You are suffering, and now you're apparently failing to appreciate the experience. But the frame around pain still affects how you bear it. When suffering appears endless and total, it can swallow your sense of time. Today feels like proof of tomorrow. One rejection becomes evidence that you're unlovable. One failure becomes your identity. Grief stops feeling like something moving through your life and begins to feel like the final shape of life itself. A different interpretation doesn't remove the event. It changes its borders. You may understand grief as the cost of having loved someone particular. You may see a difficult duty as something chosen for the sake of a person who depends on you. You may treat a season of confusion as a season, rather than a verdict on who you are. The ache remains, but it no longer gets unlimited authority to explain everything. This is why meaning can affect whether pain feels survivable or annihilating. Survivable doesn't mean mild. It means the suffering can be held inside a life that still contains something else: loyalty, memory, responsibility, even the stubborn fact that tomorrow has not yet been decided. And sometimes the interpretation is very small. You don't need a grand purpose by Tuesday afternoon. You may only need to say, "This hurts because I cared," instead of, "This hurts because my life is ruined." Both sentences recognize pain. Only one turns pain into a complete account of reality. Meaning cannot make suffering good. It can stop suffering from becoming the only voice allowed to describe your life. Pain rarely waits for careful reasoning. It wants an explanation now. When sleep won't come, when someone has left, when your body has betrayed you, uncertainty can feel like one injury too many. So the first answer that gives the pain a shape may also bring relief. That relief is real, but relief can make an explanation seem truer than it is. This is where we become easier to persuade, not because suffering makes us foolish, but because it changes what an answer is being asked to do. We're no longer judging it only by whether it fits the facts. We're judging it by whether it helps us get through the night. A person who says, "I know why this happened to you," suddenly holds something precious, the chance to end the confusion. Most consolation doesn't exploit that need. A friend sitting beside you, a ritual that gives grief a place to go, or a belief held with humility can help without claiming to explain every detail. The danger begins when comfort demands surrender. The answer becomes total. Your loss was necessary. Your illness was assigned. Your humiliation was preparation. Your pain proves that a promised redemption is coming, provided you trust the person interpreting it. That can sound hopeful. It can also trap you. If the promised redemption doesn't arrive, you may decide you failed to suffer correctly. If anger remains, perhaps you weren't grateful enough. If doubt appears, perhaps doubt itself is the obstacle. The explanation protects itself by making every objection another sign that you need it. False meaning often borrows the emotional force of genuine meaning. It takes our need for purpose, belonging, justice, or hope, and turns that need into evidence. You want the story to be true, therefore it must be true. You felt relief when you heard it, Therefore, the speaker must understand your life. But comfort is not proof, and urgency is not clarity. We don't need to mock hope or treat every consoling belief as a trick. We need to notice when an answer asks for more authority than it has earned. Does it leave room for uncertainty? Can you disagree without being shamed? Does it help you live with pain, or recruit your pain into somebody else's certainty? When you most need suffering to mean something, who gets to decide what it means, and what might they gain if you stop questioning them? You can reject somebody else's grand explanation and still need a way to live through what happened. The hospital appointment still arrives. The empty chair stays empty. You still wake at 3 a.m. with a life you didn't choose. Refusing false certainty protects you from being used, but it doesn't carry the next hour for you. Viktor Frankl understood that distinction under conditions most of us can barely imagine. He was an Austrian psychiatrist and a survivor of Nazi concentration camps. His later work argued that a person can sometimes endure terrible circumstances by finding a meaning that reaches beyond the pain, someone to love, work still worth doing, or a way of meeting the situation that preserves a piece of inner freedom. That idea is often polished into a motivational slogan: find your purpose and suffering becomes worthwhile. But that goes further than Frankl's most useful insight, and it can become cruel very quickly. Pain doesn't earn moral value because you manage to learn from it. An atrocity isn't redeemed by the courage of its survivors. A death doesn't become fair because the person left behind eventually builds a meaningful life. Meaning changes the burden, not the verdict. Think of 2 people carrying the same heavy object. The weight hasn't improved. It hasn't become kind or necessary. But if one person knows why they're carrying it and where they're going, the effort has a shape. They can decide how to place their hands, when to rest, and which direction counts as forward. Meaning can do something similar inside suffering. It can keep pain from occupying every part of your identity. It gives you a reason to make one choice, while much of life remains beyond your control. Even this has limits. Not everyone can find meaning while pain is fresh. Nobody owes the world a lesson, a brave face, or a beautiful account of what happened. Sometimes endurance means eating, sleeping, answering one message, and allowing the day to remain unresolved. That is not a failure of character. Frankl gives us no honest reason to call suffering good. He gives us a narrower and more humane possibility. When suffering cannot yet be removed, you may still decide what you refuse to surrender to it. Meaning doesn't justify the pain. It helps keep the pain from becoming the sole author of your life. There is a dangerous mistake hiding very close to this idea. Once we admire someone for finding meaning in pain, we may start admiring the pain itself. We may even treat resistance as a failure to grow. That turns a humane insight into an excuse for leaving people where they are. Some suffering should not be endured with greater dignity. It should be stopped. If a person is being humiliated, exploited, threatened, neglected, or trapped in conditions that can be changed, the first duty is not to search for a noble interpretation. It may be to leave, to intervene, to ask for help, to offer protection, or to change the conditions causing the harm. Meaning can support those actions. It cannot replace them. This boundary matters because endurance is easy to praise when someone else is doing it. From a safe distance, patience can look heroic. Up close, the advice to find meaning may simply mean that everyone else gets to remain comfortable. The worker tolerates the abuse. The exhausted parent carries one more burden. The lonely person keeps making excuses for people who never show up. Their suffering becomes a character-building exercise, conveniently assigned by someone who doesn't have to carry it. Frankl's argument is strongest when our freedom is genuinely narrow. Something has happened. It cannot be undone. The loss is real, and no decision can make yesterday different. In that kind of situation, choosing your attitude may protect a small but essential part of your agency. But when the door can be opened, opening it matters. When a harmful rule can be challenged, challenge belongs on the table. When care is available, accepting care is not a lesser form of courage. And when another person's pain can be reduced, we should be very suspicious of any philosophy that asks them to become wiser before asking us to become useful. You do not have to turn every hardship into a personal achievement. Sometimes the honest response is anger. Sometimes it is refusal. Sometimes it is admitting that this situation is not acceptable and should not continue. Those responses can carry meaning too, because meaning is not limited to bearing what happens. It can also appear in what you protect, what you oppose, and what you help remove. The limit is simple. Never use the possibility of meaning to make preventable suffering sound necessary. Endure what cannot be changed without surrendering yourself. Change what can be changed without romanticizing the struggle. This leaves us with an awkward fact. You can reject the idea that suffering is automatically noble and still need a reason to get out of bed tomorrow. The pain may be senseless. The situation may be unjust. Yet you still have to decide what deserves your next hour, your care, your effort. Frankl understood that urgency with unusual force. His work shows why meaning cannot be treated as a decorative extra, something we consider after food, safety and work have been settled. People can have comfort and still feel that their days have no direction. They can also lose almost everything and remain attached to a person, a task or a responsibility that gives them a reason to continue. Meaning changes how a life is lived from the inside. It can steady you when pleasure disappears and success becomes irrelevant. That's why the need survives even when our usual answers stop working. But proving that we need meaning is not the same as proving where meaning comes from, or why one source of meaning should be trusted over another. A person can organize an entire life around status, revenge, loyalty, faith, family, political struggle, creative work, or service. These commitments do not become equally good simply because they help someone endure. A purpose can hold a life together and still damage other people. It can even damage the person devoted to it. Endurance tells us that a commitment has power. It does not tell us that the commitment deserves that power. Frankl gives us a powerful account of existential urgency. Human beings need something beyond immediate appetite and circumstance. He also offers serious possibilities, work worth doing, love directed toward another person, and the stance we take toward what cannot be avoided. What he does not give us is a final court of appeal that settles why these possibilities are meaningful, which duties outrank others, or whether meaning is discovered in reality rather than made through commitment. That limit does not make his work small. It tells us exactly what he has established. When life is stripped of ease, distraction, and applause, the need for meaning remains. You cannot answer that need with comfort alone. You cannot silence it by staying busy. Frankl makes the need impossible to dismiss. He does not, by himself, settle what can finally answer it. For a long time, most people inherited an answer before they were old enough to doubt it. A faith, a family duty, a place in the community, a picture of right and wrong. These answers could be restrictive. They could also be cruel. But they gave suffering a place inside a larger story. You might hate what was expected of you, yet still know what the expectation was. Modern life weakens that certainty. We can question the old authorities, leave the old roles, and refuse beliefs that no longer seem credible. That freedom is real, so is the cost. Once the inherited answer loses its force, the need for meaning does not politely disappear with it. You still have to decide what deserves your time, which promise should bind you, and what makes a painful sacrifice more than wasted effort. Only now, no final authority seems able to settle the matter for everyone. This is why doubt can make the problem harsher. We often imagine that losing certainty removes a burden. Sometimes it removes the support that made the burden bearable. You are free to choose your values, but choice alone does not prove that those values are worthy. You can build an identity, change careers, move cities, fill your calendar, and still wonder whether you have chosen well or merely kept yourself occupied. Nietzsche understood the danger. When he wrote about the death of God, he was not celebrating the chance to invent a more attractive personal brand. He was naming a cultural rupture. The highest shared values had lost their unquestioned authority, while the human hunger for direction remained. The old map was fading faster than we could learn to live without one. That gap creates a peculiar kind of exhaustion. Every decision begins to carry more weight because nothing outside you appears strong enough to carry it. Even ordinary moments become strangely exposed. The silent room after work, the plan you once wanted, the success that arrives and feels smaller than expected. You can choose again, of course. But if every commitment rests on another commitment you also chose, the ground keeps moving beneath your feet. Freedom from inherited meaning is not the same as freedom from needing meaning. It leaves us with a harder task, to live without guarantees while resisting the suspicion that every value is only a preference wearing serious clothes. You can see this when someone claims that nothing matters, then gets furious when a friend lies to them. The sentence says one thing, their anger says another. They still care about honesty, loyalty, fairness, respect. Those values may no longer seem written into existence, but they're still measuring the world through them. We do this constantly. We call one choice brave and another cowardly. We admire someone who keeps a promise when breaking it would be easier. We feel ashamed of wasting a day, proud of finishing difficult work, disappointed when success makes us smaller rather than freer. Even rejecting old values contains a value. To condemn a tradition as cruel, dishonest, or hostile to life is already to judge it by something. So nihilism is more complicated than simply believing in nothing. You can lose faith in the old reasons while continuing to feel the force of judgment. The standards remain active after their official explanation has weakened. They survive in language, in the flash of resentment when someone takes credit for your work, and in the private relief of doing something you can respect. Nietzsche treats human beings as creatures who value. We don't meet a neutral world and then occasionally attach opinions to it. We rank, prefer, reject, pursue, praise, and blame. Attention gives things weight. The hour you protect from interruption means more than the hour you casually surrender. The person whose disappointment can ruin your evening holds a place in your inner order, whether you chose that arrangement carefully or not. The loss of inherited justification doesn't leave an empty person in an empty world. It leaves a valuing creature responsible for a pattern they didn't entirely choose. Some values were absorbed before we could examine them. Some contradict one another. Some survive as habits of guilt. Others show their strength through what we repeatedly sacrifice for them. That makes scrutiny unavoidable. When you say you want freedom but organize your life around approval, both values are present, but they aren't equal. Your calendar, envy, resentment, and repeated compromises reveal the ranking more honestly than your self-description does. The old ground may be contested. Valuation continues anyway. We keep arranging life into higher and lower, worthy and unworthy, worth the cost and not worth another hour. The issue isn't whether values exist in us, it's which ones are already directing us and whether we can bear to recognize their price. Freedom sounds like the moment the doors open. You can choose your work, your relationships, your beliefs, your clothes, your politics, even the kind of person you want to become. That range is real. Many people fought hard for it, and many still don't have enough of it. But an open door doesn't tell you where to go. It only removes one reason for staying where you are. This is where freedom can begin to feel strangely heavy. When a choice was made for you, resistance had a clear object. Now the decision is yours, which also means the interpretation is yours. Is leaving a job an act of courage or impatience? Is staying loyal or afraid? Are you building a life that suits you, or hiding inside comfort? The same action can carry several meanings, and no authority arrives to settle the argument. Modern life adds another complication. We don't make these choices in private. A career change becomes an update. A relationship becomes a public signal. A quiet year can look like failure when placed beside someone else's edited acceleration. You may be free to choose, yet surrounded by competing measures of whether your choice counts as intelligent, admirable, healthy, ambitious, authentic, or embarrassingly late. So we borrow verdicts. We look at salaries, reactions, habits, friends, strangers, and the subtle change in someone's face when we describe our plans. None of these measures is useless. Other people sometimes see our evasions before we do. The trouble begins when every measure remains open at once. A decision that looks brave in one circle looks reckless in another. The life praised by your family may bore your friends, the choice that brings peace, may perform terribly online. Freedom, then, doesn't simply hand you power. It exposes you to unstable valuation. You gain room to act, but lose some of the shelter that came from an agreed meaning. Even success becomes hard to hold. You reach the goal, then meet another standard that makes it look small. That doesn't make freedom a mistake. It means freedom has a cost beyond responsibility. You must live without a final guarantee that you've interpreted your own life correctly. And when every available mirror gives back a different face, choosing becomes only half the burden. The other half is deciding which reflection deserves your trust. This is why a harsh explanation can sometimes feel safer than no explanation at all. You lose the job, the relationship ends, the plan collapses, and within hours your mind is trying to turn the wreckage into a story. Maybe you were foolish, maybe they were cruel, maybe the whole thing proves you were never meant to have what you wanted. These interpretations can hurt. They can also bring a strange kind of relief. The pain now has a shape. There's a cause, a role for everyone, perhaps even a rule you can carry forward. Never trust anyone. Never take that risk again. Work twice as hard. Expect less. A bleak rule can feel useful when the alternative is admitting that something important happened and you still don't know what it means. We often assume people hold painful beliefs because those beliefs seem convincing. Sometimes they survive for a simpler reason. They defeat blankness. "I failed because I'm worthless" is brutal, but it closes the case. "This happened for reasons I only partly understand, and I must still decide how to live" leaves the door open. That uncertainty can follow you into bed, sit beside you at breakfast, and return whenever the phone goes quiet. A complete story also gives you somewhere to stand. If you're the betrayed person, the neglected person, the person who always ruins things, then at least your position is clear. You know what memories to collect. You know which details belong. Contradictions become irritating intrusions because they threaten more than an opinion. They threaten the structure keeping meaninglessness away. That helps explain why we sometimes protect interpretations that make us smaller. The story may accuse us, trap us, or keep an old conflict alive, yet abandoning it can feel like stepping off solid ground. For a while, even a bad map feels preferable to an empty page. But relief is not proof. A belief can calm the panic of not knowing and still distort your life. It can turn one betrayal into a rule about everyone, one failure into an identity, one period of confusion into a permanent sentence. The danger begins when we mistake the first story that ends the silence for the most honest account of what happened. The most convincing false meanings rarely arrive looking false. They arrive with a job for you. Be the responsible one. Be the person who never needs help. Keep the family together. Prove them wrong. Carry the guilt, because without it the pain might have no explanation at all. That kind of framework gives you three things at once: a reason for what happened, a duty to perform, and a version of yourself you can recognize. Suddenly, the mess has a shape. You know who failed, what you owe, and what tomorrow requires. The explanation may be harsh, but it is legible. You can narrate it. This is why a person can remain loyal to an interpretation that keeps hurting them. "I ruin everything" sounds cruel, yet it also turns a confusing series of events into one stable identity. Nobody can be trusted, makes closeness nearly impossible, but it removes the exhausting work of deciding whom to trust. "My value comes from being useful" can drain a person for years while still giving every sacrifice a clear role. There is relief in that clarity, not peace exactly, more like the relief of receiving instructions during an emergency. Even terrible instructions can feel better than standing still while alarms are sounding. And these meanings are often rewarded. The reliable person gets praised. The angry person feels protected. The guilty person appears morally serious. The one who never rests may even be called disciplined. A private distortion can gather public approval, which makes it harder to notice what it costs. None of this means people are helpless, or that harmful choices become innocent once we understand the story behind them. A meaning can explain a pattern without excusing what the pattern does to other people. Responsibility remains, but responsibility becomes clearer when we can see the bargain being made. The bargain is simple. In exchange for certainty, we accept a narrower life. We keep performing the duty because the duty tells us who we are. We keep repeating the explanation because it makes pain speak in complete sentences. We keep the identity because losing it would mean facing events that may never become neat, deserved, or fully understandable. False meaning wins when its distortion is easier to live inside than reality is to face without instructions. That bargain can feel like relief. The day becomes easier to read. Your choices stop floating. You know what you're for, what you're against, and what tomorrow expects from you. After a long spell of confusion, that clarity can feel so good that we mistake the feeling for proof. We assume that because an idea has quieted the chaos, it must deserve our loyalty. But relief proves very little about the worth of a meaning. A conspiracy can relieve uncertainty. Revenge can relieve humiliation. Total devotion to a job can relieve the fear that, without achievement, you might not know who you are. Even self-contempt can offer a grim kind of comfort. If every disappointment confirms that you're defective, then at least nothing is unexplained. We're vulnerable here because emptiness hurts now, while the cost of escaping it often arrives later. The belief gives you a role this evening. The damage may take years to become visible. It appears in friendships that can't survive your certainty, work that consumes everything outside it, or a life arranged around proving something to a person who is no longer watching. By then, relief has hardened into routine, and routine can look suspiciously like character. So immediate usefulness can't be the only test. We need to ask what this meaning permits us to notice, what it requires us to deny, and what kind of person it trains us to become. Does it leave room for facts that inconvenience it? Can other people remain fully real rather than becoming props, enemies, judges, or evidence? Can you revise the story without feeling that your whole identity has been sentenced to death? A meaning with genuine worth doesn't have to make life comfortable. It may unsettle you. It may remove an excuse you've depended on. It may ask you to admit that some pain has no clean explanation and some choices can't be made innocent by giving them a noble name. Yet it should widen your contact with reality, not shrink reality until it fits your need. It should help you live among facts and people you don't control. That gives us a stricter standard. Don't judge a meaning only by how quickly it fills the silence. Judge it by the life it makes possible, whether it can bear truth, preserve the reality of other people, and remain open to correction without collapsing into nothing. This is where self-authorship earns its appeal. No one wants to live as a minor character in somebody else's plan. You may inherit a career your family admires, a faith you no longer believe, or a picture of success that looked convincing until you had to wake up inside it. Choosing for yourself can be an honest act. Sometimes it's the first honest act in years. But authorship tells us who chose the meaning. It doesn't yet tell us whether the meaning is worthy. You can see the gap in ordinary decisions. Someone decides that winning is their purpose and builds an entire life around being first. Another person makes comfort their highest value and removes anything difficult, demanding, or inconvenient. A third treats freedom as never owing anyone an explanation. Each choice may be sincere. Each may feel deeply personal. None becomes good simply because it came from within. We know this instinctively when another person pays the price. "This is who I am" sounds less impressive when it's said after a betrayal. "I'm living by my own values" doesn't settle much if those values turn friends into tools or family into background scenery. Authenticity can explain why a choice feels like yours. It can't excuse what the choice does. The same problem appears in quieter forms. You choose work that gives you status, then notice you've become impatient with anyone who can't help your career. You choose peace, then use it as a reason to avoid every difficult conversation. You choose independence, then discover that no one can reach you without being treated as a threat. Nothing here proves that ambition, peace, or independence is wrong. It shows that a value can carry a respectable name while training you into a smaller person. So the worth of a chosen meaning can't come only from the intensity of your commitment. People can commit themselves fiercely to vanity, resentment, domination, or denial. Sincerity matters because a borrowed life eventually cracks, yet sincerity is a condition of living honestly, not a certificate of moral value. That leaves an awkward limit at the center of self-creation. If every standard is created by the same self whose choices need judging, then judgment risks becoming approval with better vocabulary. You choose the rule, interpret the rule, and pardon the exceptions. The author also becomes the only critic. A life can be genuinely yours and still be thin. The remaining tension is whether meaning needs an answer beyond "I chose it," without handing your life back to someone else. You can feel the difference in ordinary life. One person spends an evening absorbed in helping a friend through a crisis. Another spends the same hours perfecting a lie that will humiliate someone at work. Both are focused. Both may lose track of time. Both may feel vividly alive. Yet intensity alone cannot explain why the first activity seems meaningful and the second seems corrupted by what it serves. Susan Wolfe gives this difference a useful shape. A meaningful life, in her account, joins two things that often get separated. You must be actively engaged, and what engages you must have some worth beyond the fact that you happen to want it. She calls this being actively engaged in projects of worth. The phrase active engagement matters. Meaning isn't produced by standing near something admirable. Owning difficult books doesn't make a thoughtful life. Having kind friends doesn't make you kind. Working for a respected cause while feeling absent from every hour can leave you strangely untouched. Your attention, care, judgment, and effort have to enter the activity. You need some living connection to it. But engagement can't carry the whole weight. We're capable of becoming passionately absorbed in things that shrink us or damage other people. Obsession can feel like purpose because it organizes the day, silences doubt, and gives every action a target. That psychological force is real. It just isn't enough. Wolfe's claim is demanding because it refuses two comforting shortcuts. Meaning isn't simply whatever receives your strongest feelings, nor is it a list of respectable duties performed without love. A life gains meaning when your inner energy meets something that deserves a place in the world. Raising a child, understanding a hard problem, making honest work, caring for someone, repairing what has been neglected, creating beauty, protecting a community. The forms differ. The shared feature is that the activity isn't valuable only inside your own private scoring system. This doesn't require some celestial committee to approve your calendar. Worth can be argued about, misjudged, and understood more clearly over time. We won't agree on every case, but disagreement doesn't make all answers equal, any more than disagreement about friendship makes betrayal another valid style of loyalty. So the standard is neither cold obedience nor private intensity. Ask whether you're genuinely present in what you do, and whether the thing receiving your life is worthy of that devotion. Meaning appears where both answers can honestly be yes. We already live as if some things deserve more from us than preference can explain. You hear it when someone says, "I didn't feel like going, but I had to be there." A friend is in hospital, a child is frightened, a promise has become inconvenient. The feeling may be absent, yet the obligation remains. Love makes this especially clear. If love were only a strong preference, it would carry no claim once the preference weakened. You could treat a marriage like a song you've grown tired of, or a parent like a hobby that no longer fits your schedule. But even when relationships must end, we understand that another person cannot be reduced to the pleasure they provide. They have a worth that limits what we may reasonably do to them. Duty reveals the same pattern in less dramatic places. You return the call. You admit the mistake before anyone catches it. You care for someone who cannot repay you. None of this proves that every duty is sacred, or that you should remain trapped in a destructive demand. Duties can conflict. Some are false. Some are imposed by fear or manipulation. Still, the fact that we argue about which duties are real shows that we don't think desire settles the matter. Sacrifice brings the issue into sharper focus. A person gives years to raising a child, defending a stranger, keeping faith with someone who is dying, or telling the truth at a cost. We don't admire the loss by itself. Wasted suffering isn't made noble because it hurts. We admire sacrifice when the person gives something valuable for something they judge to be more valuable. And that judgment can be wrong. People have sacrificed themselves for cruel causes, abusive leaders, and empty status. Intensity does not rescue a bad object of devotion. That is why the language of worth keeps returning. We need some way to distinguish loyalty from submission, courage from recklessness, and love from possession. This is no longer a puzzle reserved for philosophers. It's there when you decide whether to stay beside someone, keep your word, surrender an advantage, or refuse an order. In those moments, your life is already making a claim about what deserves to count. The unsettled part is where that claim gets its authority. We can feel that love, duty, and sacrifice carry weight beyond preference. Feeling the weight, however, does not yet tell us what holds it up. This is where older answers have unusual staying power. They don't treat meaning as a mood we happen to enjoy. They place it within an order that exists before our approval, a divine purpose, a moral law, a natural good, or a reality in which some ways of living fit us better than others. That kind of answer does several jobs at once. It tells you why anything has value. It gives suffering a setting larger than the suffering itself. It explains why your duties can remain binding when they become inconvenient, and it gives your choices a direction that doesn't vanish the moment your feelings change. You can see the appeal in ordinary life. If caring for an aging parent is only a project you personally selected, then exhaustion may seem to cancel the whole arrangement. But if care answers to something real about love, kinship, or human dignity, tiredness doesn't make the duty imaginary. It may alter what you can reasonably do. It doesn't erase why the effort counts. The same structure can hold ambition in check. Success matters, but it cannot define the good by itself. A promotion gained through betrayal is still a loss of character. A comfortable life built on cowardice is still missing something. An objective order gives us language for those judgments without reducing them to taste. You dislike olives. I dislike dishonesty. Those are more than two preferences sitting politely beside each other. These traditions also connect private life with a shared world. Your purpose isn't sealed inside your head. It can involve obligations you didn't invent, virtues you must practice with other people, and goods that remain worth serving even when nobody applauds. That can feel demanding because it is demanding. You are no longer the sole author, editor, and critic of what your life means. Yet the burden comes with a kind of relief. If meaning is discovered as well as made, you don't have to manufacture it from scratch every morning. Failure can be judged without becoming your whole identity. Sacrifice can be costly without being pointless. Death can threaten a life without having the final authority over its worth. That is why these answers endure. They meet our need for direction, moral distinction, belonging, endurance, and hope in one coherent frame. They may ask a great deal from us, but they offer something equally strong in return. A life can answer to more than appetite, fashion, fear, or applause. You can feel the appeal most clearly when life pulls you in four directions at once. You want your work to count. There is also the question of what you owe other people, and some way is needed to face death. Beneath all of that lies the need to know whether a human life has worth before it becomes useful, admired, or successful. We often treat these as separate hungers. An objective order says they may belong together. If reality has a moral shape, then significance isn't just the feeling of being absorbed in something. A project matters because of what it serves. Duty isn't merely a rule imposed on your private freedom. It's your response to goods that were real before you chose them. Truth, justice, love, the dignity of another person. Your choices matter because they can fit that order, resist it, or damage something within it. This also changes mortality. Death still takes away time, possibility, touch, conversation, all the ordinary things we're right to grieve. But if worth depends on more than continued experience, death can't simply convert a valuable life into a meaningless one. The good that person served doesn't become unreal because their body stopped. Their life belonged to an order that wasn't created by their pulse and doesn't vanish with it. That same frame answers the quiet cruelty of comparison. If human worth is grounded in a reality we don't award, then the successful person doesn't possess more of it than the forgotten person. The child, the stranger, the exhausted parent, the person whose name will never appear on a building, they don't need to win a public argument for their value. Worth is received before it is displayed. This is the unusual strength of objective meaning. It doesn't hand you one answer for purpose, another for morality, and a third for death, held together with tape. It claims that the same order can explain why anything deserves devotion, why anyone deserves care, why sacrifice can be reasonable, and why mortality doesn't settle every question of value. Of course, breadth is not proof. A view can explain many things beautifully and still be mistaken, but its reach helps explain why it remains so difficult to replace. Rejecting it means finding some other account of purpose, obligation, equal worth, loss, and the stubborn sense that certain things should matter even when nobody wants them to. That demand is enormous. We're asking one account of meaning to explain why love can obligate us, why cruelty remains wrong when it wins, why a forgotten life still has worth, and why death may not have the final word. It's hardly surprising that people reach different conclusions. The surprise would be a neat agreement reached without strain. Some believe the best explanation is an order that exists beyond human preference. Meaning is discovered, not invented. Our duties answer to something real, and our lives fit within a reality larger than the part we can see. Others admire the reach of that answer, but cannot make the final step. They may doubt that moral experience proves a cosmic source, or that our hunger for permanence tells us what the world contains. The hunger may be honest, while the conclusion remains uncertain. That hesitation isn't automatically evasive. Neither is belief automatically a refusal to face doubt. Both can come from taking the same pressures seriously. One person sees our sense of obligation as a clue to an objective order. Another sees it as a powerful feature of human life that still needs no source beyond human beings, history, and the conditions of living together. Each answer carries a cost. Objective meaning must explain why its supposed order is so disputed and often so difficult to recognize. Human-made meaning must explain why some duties seem to bind us, even when our group approves the opposite. We often treat disagreement as evidence that somebody hasn't thought hard enough. Sometimes that's true. People dodge, inherit slogans, or protect a comforting answer. But disagreement can also survive serious thought, because the demand itself pulls in several directions. We want meaning to be freely embraced, yet more than preference. We want moral claims to be universal, yet sensitive to particular lives. We want an answer honest about death without making love feel temporary and therefore trivial. No position removes every tension. That doesn't make every position equally strong, and it doesn't leave us with a shrug. It means intellectual honesty may require judging which account explains the most, distorts the least, and asks us to deny the fewest parts of experience. Objective meaning remains powerful because it refuses to reduce value to appetite, fashion, or agreement. Its unresolved status doesn't cancel that strength. It leaves us with something less comfortable than closure, a serious possibility carrying serious consequences that reason can approach without forcing every thoughtful person across the same final line. A useful answer doesn't have to solve every part of the problem. It may explain why you get out of bed, yet say little about death. It may help you face death, yet leave your daily choices untouched. We often argue over meaning as if 6 thinkers were competing to open the same lock. They aren't. They're working on different doors. Pascal addresses our hunger for something greater than the finite life we can see. For him, distraction is revealing. We keep ourselves busy because silence exposes a need that entertainment cannot satisfy. His answer reaches toward God, dependence, and eternity. It speaks most directly to ultimate belonging. Camus begins where certainty fails. The world doesn't provide the clear reply we want, but we are still here wanting one. His answer is revolt. Live lucidly, refuse false comfort, and keep choosing life without pretending the silence has disappeared. That doesn't supply a cosmic purpose. It gives dignity to our response when cosmic purpose cannot be confirmed. Frankl works closer to lived responsibility. Meaning can appear in work, love, and the stance we take towards suffering we cannot avoid. His account helps when life has narrowed and you still need a reason for the next act. Nietzsche pushes somewhere else. He asks whether inherited values have become dead weight, and whether you can create a way of living you are willing to affirm. His concern goes beyond endurance, it is authorship. Susan Wolfe adds a needed correction to pure self-creation. Loving something is not enough if the thing is worthless, and objective worth is not enough if you feel no connection to it. Meaning grows when active engagement meets something genuinely valuable. That explains why a demanding craft can feel alive, while an equally demanding obsession can leave you empty. Traditions grounded in an objective moral or sacred order make the largest claim. They say meaning is discovered within a reality that does not depend on our approval. If they are right, purpose is not only a human construction, and death may not have the final authority we assume it has. These answers overlap, but they are not interchangeable. Pascal speaks to eternity, Camus to honesty without certainty, Frankl to responsibility, Nietzsche to creation, Wolfe to worthy engagement, objective order views to reality beyond preference. The sensible comparison is not which name wins, it is which layer of your need is speaking, and whether the answer offered can actually reach it. You can feel the different needs colliding in an ordinary week. You want your work to matter, but you also need to feel that you matter when the work goes badly. Your choices need to fit into some larger picture, and when you lose someone or face your own death, you want to know whether anything you loved can endure. One word, meaning, is carrying all of that weight. These are several hungers, not one. We look for significance, the sense that our actions make a real difference. We look for worth, some reason to believe a life can be good, admirable, or deserving of care. We look for intelligibility, a way to understand where we are, what kind of world this is, and how our days belong together. Then we look for endurance, the hope that what is valuable isn't simply cancelled by time, failure, or death. A person can satisfy one hunger while the others remain painfully awake. You may do useful work and still wonder whether your worth disappears when you stop producing. You may build a clear philosophy of life and still find that it offers little comfort beside a hospital bed. You may trust that love survives in memory, yet struggle to explain why the universe should contain any lasting moral order. That isn't confusion. It's what happens when one answer is asked to do 4 jobs. Modern life makes this harder because it often gives us quick substitutes. Productivity can imitate significance. Approval can imitate worth. A confident story can imitate understanding. Keeping someone's photographs can imitate endurance. None of these is necessarily false or empty. The trouble begins when we expect the feeling produced by one to settle every other need. A promotion can confirm that your effort was noticed. It cannot by itself tell you what you are worth when nobody is watching. So the burden persists because we don't merely want a task, a self-image, an explanation, or a legacy. We want these forms of meaningfulness to hold together. We want to act effectively without becoming useful machinery. We want dignity without having to earn it every morning. We want a world we can understand without pretending its losses are tidy. We want what we love to endure, while knowing how little control we have over time. That is why the search can continue even inside a life that looks full. The missing piece may not be more meaning. It may be clarity about which hunger is still unfed. Clarity may sound like a modest reward after everything we ask from meaning. We want a final answer, something firm enough to settle the whole matter. Instead, we may discover that one part of us needs direction, another needs belonging, and another is simply frightened of losing what it loves. No slogan can satisfy all 3. Knowing which need is speaking still changes the way you live. You stop demanding that your career prove you deserve to exist. You stop asking a relationship to protect you from every lonely hour. You stop treating pain as evidence that your life has failed some invisible test. The work can remain important, the relationship can remain precious, the pain can remain painful, but each is released from a job it could never perform. That release affects ordinary choices. When an opportunity appears, you can ask whether you want the work or merely the identity attached to it. When a quiet evening feels empty, you can notice whether you need company, purpose, rest, or distraction. When someone offers a neat explanation for suffering, you can refuse the comfort without surrendering your capacity to endure. Counterfeit peace always asks you to stop looking too closely. Clarity does the opposite. It lets you look closely without insisting that everything resolve. You may still be uncertain about the shape of a worthwhile life. You may still change your mind, but confusion no longer has complete freedom to disguise itself as ambition, loyalty, faith, productivity, or self-improvement. You begin to see which choices serve your life and which ones merely silence an uncomfortable thought for a few hours. This isn't a final slogan to carry like a polished answer. It's a cleaner relation to the question. You don't need to solve your existence before breakfast. You do need to notice when fear is choosing for you, when approval is pretending to be purpose, and when busyness is being used as a sedative. A meaningful life may never feel permanently settled. Perhaps it shouldn't. Love keeps exposing us to loss. Freedom keeps exposing us to responsibility. Honest thought keeps removing answers we had grown comfortable inside. Yet a person can become less easily fooled, less willing to trade truth for relief, and more able to choose without pretending certainty. That is already a kind of peace. Not the peace of having no question left, but the peace of no longer needing a false answer. The room is quiet again. The phone is face down. Nothing urgent needs your answer. And for a moment, you can hear the thought that usually disappears beneath work, entertainment, and the small duties that make a day feel complete. What am I doing all this for? Maybe that thought used to frighten you. It sounded like evidence that something had gone wrong. Surely a confident person would know. Surely everyone with a meaningful life had found the answer, written it down, and arranged their days around it. Meanwhile, you were still lying awake, trying to work out whether the life you built was chosen or simply accumulated. But we've seen why certainty is a poor test of purpose. Some people inherit an answer and never examine it. Others speak with confidence because doubt makes them uncomfortable. A clear voice can still be repeating somebody else's instructions. Your uncertainty may be doing more honest work. It can show you where borrowed ambition has stopped persuading you. It can expose the success you wanted, mainly because other people would recognize it. It can reveal the habit of waiting for one grand discovery to make every ordinary choice feel necessary. None of that gives you an instant answer. It gives you a cleaner place to stand. Purpose doesn't always arrive as a calling. Often it becomes visible through commitment. You care for someone when it's inconvenient. You keep a promise that no one else remembers. You return to work that asks something real of you. You refuse a comfortable role that makes you smaller. Slowly, a shape appears. Not because every action felt important at the time, but because your actions kept placing weight on certain values. That also means you're allowed to revise the shape. A purpose that was right for one part of your life may become too narrow for the next. Leaving it isn't necessarily betrayal. Staying with it isn't necessarily courage. You have to look at what your loyalty is producing in you and around you. This is where the quiet room becomes useful. Without applause, urgency, or comparison, some motives lose their authority. The promotion still matters, perhaps, but it can no longer explain you. The old dream still carries affection but not command. Even loneliness can change its tone. It may stop sounding like a verdict on your worth and start showing you the kinds of connection you're unwilling to fake. You won't solve this once. A human life keeps changing the evidence. Love rearranges priorities. Loss removes assumptions. Age makes some ambitions look smaller, and some ordinary pleasures look astonishingly complete. The answer has to remain alive enough to meet the person you're becoming. So when the question returns, don't treat it as a defect in your character. Don't rush to silence it with a busier calendar or a prettier explanation. Let it test the life in front of you. Which commitments still feel worthy when nobody is watching? Which effort leaves you tired but not divided against yourself? What are you willing to serve without needing it to prove that you're special? You may not leave the quiet room with a sentence that explains your whole existence. You may leave with something less impressive and more useful. One honest choice about tomorrow. A purpose isn't the end of questioning. It is the direction you choose while the question remains.